Good evening. Could we please have the motion to come out of closed session, please?
Yes, I move that this council certify by a recorded vote that to the best of each council member's knowledge, only public business matter is lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready for us to cast our votes, Madam Clerk?
Yeah.
Great, we're out of closed session. Welcome. Glad everyone was able to make it tonight. I'm standing in for the mayor. We'll begin the business meeting with a moment of silence. Are there any announcements? Councilor Payne, would you mind reading the announcement from Mr. Zan?
Sure.
Thank you.
One second.
I have an announcement I can make in the meantime. Like,
Sure, yeah.
Go for it.
This Saturday at Tonsler Park, so the Saturday the 12th, from 6 to 8 p.m., so when it's hopefully a little bit cooler, there's going to be an e-bike demonstration day, so you can show up and there'll be a bunch of people with different e-bikes you can test, doing the loop around the field and see if it's something that you might be interested in. If it rains, it will be rescheduled to the 20th. So big thanks to all the folks contributing their e-bikes, the local bike shops, the e-bike lending library, the city, and Parks and Rec for helping put that on.
Two announcements. The first, the 17th Annual Summer Think Shop is coming up. Alex Zan presents his annual Summer Think Shop with this year's theme, Yo, Let It Go. The purpose of this event is to provide a fun, educational, and positive summer experience for area children throughout the area on Thursday, July 17th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at Johnson Elementary School. The main highlights will be Eamon Ta, 10-year-old creator of Fatah's Penny Candy, the iconic drum call, young musician Gerard Smith Jr. and Friends, dynamic 10-year-old vocalist Nia. The In Touch segment features the Jefferson Madison Regional Library and the Blue Ridge Mental Health District. Again, that'll be July 17th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at Johnson Elementary School. And the second announcement is just that there are current openings for boards and commissions. The applications for this round are due August 1st. Some of the boards and commissions with vacancies include the Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund Committee, the Housing Advisory Committee, the Minority Business Commission, the Planning Commission, and the Police Civilian Oversight Board. There are other additional vacancies as well, but again, the deadline to apply is August 1st.
Thank you very much. And I think we have a proclamation resolution.
Yes. Many of you may have seen the obituary in the paper in the last couple of days about the death of Joe Mooney. And we've got this proclamation here recognizing the contributions of Joe Mooney. Whereas Joe Mooney, former chair of the Charlottesville School Board, died on June 25th, 2025. Joe had served on the Charlottesville School Board in the 1980s and was the chair in 1987 when the board presented a plan to reconfigure the elementary schools. The main goal of the plan was to make Buford the only middle school serving grades 7 through 8, to make Walker an upper elementary school serving grades 5 through 6, and leaving all the other elementary schools to serve K through 4. The plan had several goals. First was to eliminate the north side versus south side tension inherent in the attendance zones for the two middle schools. 2, to begin the process of building one student body in 5th grade rather than waiting until 9th grade. And 3, to free up space in the elementary schools to allow smaller class sizes in K through 4. Throughout a bruising public debate around the school board's 1987 plan, Joe guided the school board to a good collective decision while giving all citizens an opportunity to be heard over that contentious issue. We were fortunate to have Joe as chair of the school board at that time. Now, therefore, the Charlottesville City Council extends to Joe's wife, Betty, and to the rest of the Mooney family our sorrow at Joe's death and our deep appreciation for his years of service to our city and in commemoration of his significant contributions to the community, it's our privilege to recognize Joe Mooney, signed and sealed this 7th day of July 2025 by Brian Pinkston, Vice Mayor. And we'll present this to the family.
Thank you for that, Lloyd. So we're now at Community Matters, and there are 8 pre-registered speakers, leaving slots for 8 additional speakers on Community Matters. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. I'll now open the floor to pre-registered speakers. Our first speaker is Scott Collins.
Good evening. My name is Scott Collins, 200 Garrett Street, Charlottesville. Thank you for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm here this evening to discuss the current issues with the zoning ordinance in light of the judge's ruling last week. I understand the city staff and the city council is working on getting this matter resolved by either trying to get the new zoning ordinance reactivated or appealing the decision of last week by the judge's ruling to get it reversed so they get reactivated that way. While that definitely helps solve the current issue of not having a zoning code right now, I'm not sure it solves all the issues with the uncertainty of the pending lawsuit for that's coming up in next year. It's really hard for any projects to sort of move forward with a brand new project with that lawsuit hanging out there, knowing that within 12 months this could happen again. And talking with my clients, they've gotten to witness what it could really be like if the city does lose this lawsuit a year from now. So I basically have 2 potential solutions for this matter because it is pretty big matter and really needs to be addressed. My first solution would be to reenact the old zoning code. And also, if you are able to reenact the new zoning code together or get the judge's ruling reversed, then you would have the same period that you had when you first enacted that new zoning code. You had the developer, the property owner had the right to pick which development code they could go forward with, whether it was the old one or the new code. That was the case for at least about 8 months maybe, or a year. Really helped with that transition to the new code because they could still continue to develop underneath the old code if they weren't quite sure or if they were already planning on something that way. This would help eliminate any projects moving forward now because it takes about 12 months to get a project approved at least, and it would be hard for a developer to go through and put up all the cost in order to get something approved through the city just to see that zoning code revoked and have the rights removed right before site plan approval. That would be one option. A second option would be to reenact the old code, but allow all these projects that are currently under review or want to proceed underneath the new code, allow them to proceed through an SUP or rezoning. That would allow them to meet the current zone requirements through a zoning code amendment or an SUP and still conform with the old zoning code but meet the new requirements.
Hey, thank you so much for
Thank you
that.
very
We
much.
appreciate it. Second speaker, Mr. Downing Smith.
Good evening, I'm Downing Smith. I live at 810 Locust Avenue. And I'm here to talk about the plan on the water supply. This is from Sean Tubbs' May 26 newsletter. The RWSA is very close to moving ahead with the next phase of the community water supply plan ratified by the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors and the City of Charlottesville in early 2012. The second stage is a 9-mile pipeline, and I will add uphill, to connect the waterway of the South Fork Ravenna Reservoir to, and it doesn't say in there, to the Reagan Mountain Loop. After years of planning, the new pipeline project would move forward in the next 5 years at a cost of $117 million. A whole lot has changed in the last 13 years. And I think that it's incumbent upon y'all to review the decisions made 13 years ago to see if they were still good decisions. The population has increased, 17,000 in Albemarle County. Charlottesville is pretty much the same. university, I don't know. At least part of the planned path of this pipeline ran along the western bypass right-of-way. The western bypass is dead, and that land that was acquired for the right-of-way has been sold off. The south fork of the reservoir was silting in back in 2012, and it's been silting in for another 13 years. The right-of-way for the pipeline is questionable that it'll ever be built, because the people who killed the bypass also don't want a huge pipeline going right through their backyard. There's also been development along the pathway, at least the pathway that I knew in 2012. But even if the pipeline could be built, essentially what you would be doing is you'd pumping more water out of the South Fork, which would be a smaller amount of water. We have outgrown our watershed here in Charlottesville. Sugar Hollow Reservoir is small. The pipeline to Reagan Mountain is yay big around. And the Mormons River between the Sugar Hollow and the confluence with the Doyle at Whitehall is dry. There just isn't much water going in. I have a lot of questions, and I think y'all should too, about whether or not we should be building this 9-mile uphill pipeline on a plan that I considered bad 13 years ago. And this community, all of this community, not just y'all, need to accept the fact that we have outgrown our watershed. And it's probably not going to happen in my lifetime, and maybe lots of your lifetimes either. But eventually we're going to have water rationing here in Charlottesville, just like they do in California.
Okay, thank you so much. Michael Crenshaw?
Good evening, councilors. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Littleville-Seville. My name is Michael Crenshaw. We are an all-volunteer organization that advocates for better housing, land use, and transportation policies in the Charlottesville area. We want to express our support for the city's new zoning code and our desire for it to be reinstated as soon as possible. We were not surprised when comfortably housed people sued to prevent the city from addressing its affordable housing goals. Now, after failing to succeed through democratic processes, the plaintiffs declined to argue their case on its merits, instead using a procedural misstep to avoid a substantive debate through the courts. Remember that the Seville Plans process was intended to overcome decades of housing injustice. Of course, those who benefit from the status quo will do whatever they can to preserve it. But their voices are not the ones who we should be centering. It should continue to be those most negatively impacted by the area's high housing costs. Charlottesville is making progress towards addressing its housing affordability goals, but as you know, the work is far from done. Although Judge Worrell's decision is a setback, we are not deterred in our goal to make Charlottesville a place where all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds can call home. We must continue to collectively step forward towards making the ladder of housing opportunity called for in the comprehensive plan a reality in Charlottesville. The new zoning code has significant community support, and pro-housing policies continue to be very popular in our area. Please reinstate the new zoning code as soon as possible. We look forward to supporting your efforts, and we have your back. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Great. Next up, Emily Little.
Good evening, councilors, Charlottesville citizens. I'm Emily Little, and I live on Moore Ave. This is a little bit less of a comment today and more of a love letter to the City Council and to the city staff who are doing the courageous work of listening to their citizens and protecting them from the dangerous cruelty that is coming from Washington, D.C. I'm a nurse here in Charlottesville, and I see the new deep stress that my immigrant patients are feeling. And it isn't just undocumented citizens that are feeling the stress. Patients with dark skin, with accents, with birthright citizenship, who are in the middle of a legal process, they are scared too, because there is no due process. Thank you for working to protect our vulnerable citizens. My patients work so hard here in the city and in the county, and it is painful to watch their fear grow. based on what's happening on the national stage and the increased funding to ICE. As your constituents and citizens and friends, we stand with you in your care of the vulnerable. I would also like to commend you for continuing to do the climate action work. I know it doesn't get easier when the national and state levels make it harder, but hopefully we will be in a better place next year with the state support. And in the meantime, it is with deep gratitude that I thank you for resolving to do more climate action in 2017 and then actually following through on that resolution more and more every year. It gives me hope. Our local work, more than ever, is needed. I have watched Seaville become a leader on climate and a model for other communities who are ready to act more. So kudos to you for being the leaders. And then a final quick shout out to Chris Jensick in Parks and Rec. He's the trail manager for the city. I am blown away by how much work his crew is doing to make this city a walkable city with more paths, more bridges, volunteer workforces. It's hot out, and the trees are the one thing that keep us cool in the city, so I really appreciate that. And it means that our kids can walk safely to school, and our older citizens can get some shade while they're walking, including benches. So in closing, I applaud you for working hard to create a truly great city to live in, where we love our neighbors and the earth. Thank you.
Miss Little, feel free to come back 2 weeks from now. And 2 weeks after that. Thank you. Alicia Lenahan?
Good evening. My name is Alicia Lenahan. I live in the county. I'm here to raise concerns about the Supreme Court decision that came down on June 27th, which gave the president the power to dismantle the Constitution through an executive order. You may think, and many people in this room may think, that the decision limiting nationwide injunctions was simply administrative. It was not. The birthright citizenship protections afforded by the 14th Amendment will only be available to the plaintiffs named in the existing class. Class action lawsuits will be brought, however, identifying a class and having it certified is a complicated process. Other individual cases may be filed. Now, absent the ability to get into court, the executive order will become law on July 25th. Citizenship will be denied to babies born to undocumented mothers and mothers with lawful but temporary immigration status unless the father is a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. To paraphrase Justice Sotomayor, these injunctions protected newborns from the exceptional, irreparable harm associated with losing a foundational constitutional right and its immediate benefits. The lower federal courts honored the most basic value of our constitutional system. They kept the government within the bounds of the law. Today, it's birthright citizenship. Tomorrow, an executive order may do away with our right to free speech, freedom of assembly. Perhaps the administration will target the 10th Amendment in order to limit the powers vested in state, local governments, and the people who live here. No right is safe in the new legal regime created by the Supreme Court. Again, Justice Sotomayor. Too few people in our community are aware of the danger we face. We are asking you to use your positions to educate the people who rely on your leadership. We're demanding that local media, the Daily Progress, Charlottesville Tomorrow, Seaville, radio, and television do their jobs, accurately inform the public about these threats, shape public opinion, and hold those in power accountable. Serve the public interest by providing information that empowers citizens to participate meaningfully in a democratic society. Remember Martin Luther King Jr.'s admonition that history will have to record that the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition was not the strident clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people. Thank you for listening.
Susan McCulley.
My name's Susan McCulley, and I'm a county resident. The big budget bill that was signed into law on July 3rd pours $170.7 billion into immigration enforcement, more than the military budgets of all but 15 countries. It provides $45 billion for detention facilities, for immigration and customs enforcement, an increase of 265% in ICE's annual detention budget. It provides $29.9 billion for ICE enforcement, a threefold increase in ICE's annual budget. According to the American Immigration Council, the law gives ICE more funding than the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Drug Enforcement Administration, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, U.S. Marshals Service, and the Bureau of Prisons combined. In fact, the law will make ICE the largest federal law enforcement agency in the history of the nation. Scholars point out that immigration is an area where the U.S. president can exercise virtually unchecked legal coercive power. And now Congress has given ICE unprecedented resources to pay for private contractors and to hire street agents willing to mask themselves and do whatever they are told and potentially whatever they want against immigrants, refugees, and residents. And the administration has signaled that it will not stop at undocumented immigrants, but will use ICE and the DOJ to threaten whoever they wish. We ask that Charlottesville follow the example of Huntington Park, California, which passed a resolution which strongly condemns using unmarked vehicles, masked agents, and unidentifiable personnel in immigration enforcement activities. The three aims of the resolution are, first, to focus on verification by directing the police department to confirm the identity and legitimacy of individuals claiming federal authority. Second, to address community fear and distrust as a result of the presence of masked individuals. And third, to clarify intent. Officials are not impeding federal operations, but rather demanding transparency and identification from those claiming to act with federal authority. We are in a dark chapter of American history. We ask you to pass a resolution to require federal agents to be unmasked and identifiable. We ask that the city protect our community from abuse from the extraordinary federal enforcement power that is about to be unleashed upon us.
Thank you. Next, Ronald Ignatz.
Ron Ignatz, county resident, but work in the city. As Susan just mentioned, in talking about the budget bill, there's been a huge infusion of money into Homeland Security. Of equal importance are the programs that are being stripped bare and the people right here who will suffer as a result. Earlier this year, Move to Health Equity wrote to Congressman McGuire carefully explaining how constituents would be affected by proposed Medicaid changes. These are some facts that he ignored. Nearly 2 million Virginia residents, or 1 in 5, depend on Medicaid and CHIP for their health care. Of that, 166,000 live in the 5th District. This includes newborns, young children, adults, pregnant women, and older adults. Widespread cuts to Medicaid will leave many without access to comprehensive health coverage or critical services. Because Virginia is a trigger state, if federal funding for Medicaid expansion falls below the 90% level, more than 630,000 Virginians, including 53,000 in the 5th District, will be automatically disenrolled from Medicaid. Access to health coverage, life-saving medications, and treatment for chronic conditions will be interrupted or ended for thousands because Congress decided to cut federal funding for expansion. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, was also on the chopping block. It is the nation's most important and effective anti-hunger program. It plays a critical role in reducing poverty, improving health and economic outcomes, supporting people who are paid low wages, and serving as the first line of defense against hunger during economic downturns. In Virginia, 827,000 residents receive SNAP. 67% are in families with children, 33% are families with older or disabled members, and 36% are working families. The average monthly SNAP benefit in Virginia are as follows. For all households, the average is $296. For households with children, $506. Working households, $338. Households with older adults, $118. For households with non-elderly disabled members, $211. My question to the council is, how is the city working with providers such as the Free Clinic, Region 10, Centera, UVA Health, the Food Bank, and Loaves and Fishes to help support individuals, children, and families who are about to lose health coverage and food assistance?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sage Bradburn.
Good evening. My name is Sage Bradburn. I live in the county. I want to talk about the Department of Justice's June 11th memo entitled Civil Division Enforcement Priorities, which raises serious concerns, including the administration's capricious determination that DEI policies, programs, and activities, even in the private sector and in educational institutions, are illegal. Instead of pursuing actual criminals defrauding the government, the DOJ will use the False Claims Act to prosecute entities receiving federal funds for knowingly violating civil rights laws if they have illegal DEI programs. Cities, schools, nonprofits, the list of potential targets is endless. They will seek treble damages, putting many out of business and forcing those opposing their hateful policies into compliance. And this no doubt played a role in Jim Ryan's recent resignation. The administration also seeks to end sanctuary jurisdictions, jurisdictions exercising their legal right granted under the 10th Amendment and upheld by several court decisions to limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. The 10th Amendment reserves powers not delegated to the federal government to states and localities. And this principle of federalism, dividing power between federal and state governments, is central to this debate and to our democracy. The Trump administration is now trying to circumvent the Constitution by using executive orders, and the Supreme Court is allowing that. We know local government and law enforcement have been under enormous pressure to comply, and recent developments constitute significant threats to you and our community. We ask you to keep your courage up, to keep resisting, and to assure you that we have your back when you do. We are also, I know you are not the local media, but we would like any pressure you can bring to bear on the local media to do their job. This includes the Daily Progress, Charlottesville Tomorrow, Seville, radio and television stations, to do their job and serve the public interest by accurately informing the public about these threats to our democracy. Too often they report these as just differences of opinion or just like, hey, this is happening, without putting it in the context and relating it to our laws. And that's a real problem. And we want them also to hold those in power accountable when they lie to us, when they mislead the public. Probably several of you got the Social Security email, like touting its great new powers, and when they misuse their power. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. Okay, we have 8 additional slots. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Yes, in the middle. Please tell us your name and your address, or at least roughly.
Stewart. I'm Mary Stewart. I live in the county. I'm a property owner in Charlottesville. I'm here to speak about the Department of Justice threat to naturalized citizens. On June 11th, the Department of Justice issued a memo entitled Civil Division Enforcement Priorities. Among the concerns it raises is the threat to naturalized American citizens. Federal law has always provided for revocation when an individual becomes a naturalized citizen through fraud, lying about, or concealing facts related to their eligibility. Denaturalization has been used judiciously across Republican and Democratic administrations, with the exception of its use against alleged communists during the McCarthy era in the late 1940s and early 1950s. From 1990 to 2017, the DOJ filed only about 11 denaturalization cases per year. All American citizens, naturalized or born here, are subject to the penalties of criminal law if they commit crimes. Ripping someone away from their family and their established life has been too harsh for anything other than the most heinous crimes. For instance, Nazis who lied about their role in the Holocaust were stripped of citizenship if discovered and deported. Far from prosecuting criminals, the DOJ will now accept any other cases, in quotes, that it deems sufficiently important to pursue. The any other cases provision is so vague that it will permit the division to denaturalize for just about anything. It could be something prior to or following naturalization, or given the other priorities discussed in the memo, it could be exercising First Amendment rights or encouraging diversity in hiring, now recast as fraud against the United States, or troublesome journalists who are naturalized citizens, or students, or university professors, or infectious disease doctors who try to reveal the truth about epidemics, or lawyers. All are now vulnerable to the vagaries of an administration that has shown a preference for deporting people without due process and dealing dismissively with questions that come up after the fact. In 2023, there were approximately 25 million immigrants in this country who have become naturalized American citizens. Today, their lives have become a little less certain, a lot less certain. Too few people in our community are aware of the danger we face. We're asking you to use your positions to educate the people who rely on your leadership. And we're demanding that local media, again, all the outlets, do their jobs, accurately inform the public about these threats, shape public opinion, and hold those in power accountable. Serve the public interest by providing information that empowers citizens to participate meaningfully in a democratic society. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, councilors, city staff. Chris Meyer, 124 Oaklawn Court. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I was very saddened to hear about the shootings that happened, but thankful that it looked like the CPD was there promptly. I'd like to start with, as I mentioned in my comments before a couple weeks ago, a real concern with the inability of the city's third-party lawyers to submit their homework on time, which resulted in, looks like now, right, we're having to go back to the drawing board with our zoning ordinance. My assumption is, and I asked a couple weeks ago, what is Plan B? And unfortunately, I haven't seen the Plan B yet, and I know their folks are working on it, but I was a little surprised that I think the Plan B hadn't been kind of worked out, and that we were caught a little off guard from Judge Worrell's response. So I'm hoping to see, and maybe I'm a little ignorant of the response, but that we do have a plan here that can be put into place promptly, and that all the housing plans that are being seen or have been in the early start of being seen, but have been submitted, can be properly reviewed and or accelerated now that we've had this delay. It is, I think, there's a lot of us who want to build housing in the city, and unfortunately, this misstep is not helpful, and I hope whoever's in charge of resolving it can do so in a prompt manner. Finally, I haven't heard about the accountability for our Gentry Lock lawyers. Are they going to be paying for this screw up, paying for the additional legal work we're going to have to do now? All that, I think the public should know what's going to happen with who's being held accountable and how is our taxpayer money it can be refunded and/or used better in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Tom Dale. I'm a resident of the county. I just want to implore the council here to pay heed to the conversation that you heard here about what's happening with ICE and with the budget. It's real, right? I mean, you read about it. They're doubling. They're adding 10,000 more agents. The pressure on the city and on the county is going to become enormous. You can see it already, right? Pressure to get the University of Virginia president to resign. Pressure on cities to hold back funding in order to apply, in order to meet the agenda of the administration. This is real. This is important. It's hard to ignore it. And if you think that it's not real here, the New York Times on July 5th wrote, "Virginia has become a hotbed for immigration arrests. The pace of immigration arrests has shot up across the country under the second Trump term, but few places have seen a spike quite as sharp as Virginia. Arrests in the state by immigration and customs enforcement agents are up more than 350% since 2024, one of the steepest increases in the country. Nearly 3,000 people were arrested by ICE in Virginia in the first 5 months of 2025, on par with numbers in a much larger state like New York. The city's going to become under pressure. 10,000 new ICE agents, they're going to ask your police force to align with them. This is going to be difficult. I think we want to be a sanctuary city. I think we want to show that we have compassion, that we want to follow due process, which ICE clearly, from what you can see in the paper, does not want to follow due process. So I'm just imploring you, pay attention. This is coming your way. It's going to be hard. This is going to be very difficult on you in order to sort of resist where you need to resist and abide by the rules and the laws of this nation and this state and this city. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Burns. I live on Rock Creek Road in Fifeville neighborhood. I come to you tonight as a Fifeville constituent, a city school parent, and as the vice chair of the Charlottesville City School Board, speaking in my personal capacity. I want to speak tonight in regards to the shootings that took place on July 4th on Orangedale Avenue. This is my neighborhood, our neighborhood. I love where I live. I love where my children have grown up, where Tricia and Derek are raising Lyric, where Barbara has nurtured her family and countless neighborhood children, where Alonzo works the night shift and still takes care of the yard, where Miss Kia comes home after a long day of supporting students at CHS as a CSA, where Miss Shelley, the clinical director of the Women's Initiative, walks her dog and laughs with neighbors, where the men gather on the curve to play horseshoes, where Shayla, the executive director of BRAC, and Kyrie are raising little Kyrie and Rose, where Jonathan not only serves his family, but the entire city as an operations supervisor for CAT. I could go on, but let me just say again, I love where I live. And I have been sounding the alarm along with so many others who are directly engaged in the community for far too long about easy access to weapons, the blatant disregard for life, and the lack of accountability. The warnings have been clear, and I'm asking you all to do better. We don't need more talking points, we need real investment. Keep community centers open later and staffed with full-time benefited employees who will grow with our city. Provide consistent, accessible mental health support, not just hotlines and pamphlets, but for people embedded in our neighborhoods. Region 10 cannot do this alone. Invest in mentoring programs led by stable, committed adults, not those still caught up in the streets themselves. Expand summer school, not just to catch kids up, but to lift them up. Prioritize STEM and the arts and hands-on programming that truly engages our youth and gives them something to dream about. We cannot arrest or punish our way out of this. We need structure, we need hope, we need accountability at every level. And lastly, for those who witnessed the shootings, who called 911 on Orangedale Avenue, please speak up and come forward. Take a stand. Say not in our neighborhood, not during our celebrations, not in our city, and not to my family. We are not asking for miracles. We're asking for a partnership, for resources, for respect, and for hope. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, council, and all those in attendance. I applaud the previous speakers, but I come with a question tonight. What are we doing? Exactly, what in the hell are we doing? For weeks, we had a parade of citizens, your constituents, come down here asking, begging, pleading that you do not throw that $49 million down that rabbit hole. But you chose to do so anyway. Why do we even have matters by the public if you're not going to listen to what the citizens have to say to you? This has just gotten beyond pathetic or any level of understanding. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. City Manager Saunders, your hands aren't clean in this either. We need to be able to create some programs for our kids to get them off the streets. That $49 million would have gone a long way towards helping to fund the school board budget. It certainly could have gone a long way towards helping, helping with something that each and every one of you ran on as part of your platform, homelessness and low-income housing. But you chose not to. We have got to come up with a way to actually get the citizens involved, and I applaud the attendance that's here tonight. And hopefully you'll actually listen and pay attention to what they've been telling you tonight. I so look forward now to a council being led by Mayor Payne and Vice Mayor Oshrin. Hopefully Jen will come in and be that third liberal Democratic vote that you all need to actually get something concrete and viable done here in this city. But it makes absolutely no sense for citizens to come down here, waste their time, when one, you won't be engaged, you won't listen, and you certainly won't pay attention to the whims of the public. And then you wonder why people they're not interested and they're not active with what's going on in city government or in the city and the community at all. This has got to stop. It's got to change. And it's up to you all to do that. Chief Carters, I'm not going to shoot any flaming arrows at you, but I will ask you to please start planning for and actually having some community forums where you can sit down and tell the public what it is that you intend to do and how you intend to do it. But we've got to get the guns off the street. We've got to find something for these kids to do so that they're not on the streets themselves. Thank you.
Who's next? Okay, thank you. That closes Community Matters.
Vice Mayor, if I could just quickly, just because I think, there's enough people to warrant some sort of response to some of the things we've heard. I just want to say, when it comes to the immigration actions, that's something the city has heard. It's something that's been factored into decisions we've made about technology in the city. It's something that's been factored into how the city has operated and how our police operate. I think you are correct, though, with the tripling of ICE's budget, the situation is going to change, and it's going to be a whole community effort required to respond to it. Second point is the city manager, as part of anticipation of the federal legislation, saved a significant amount of our year-end surplus. So there was money available to try to back-end investments in things like social services employees as best we can, try to fill in the gap with nonprofit providers who are going to see funding and grants cut. There is planning for that. There is a limit to what we can do with a budget of $260 million. And the final point is just, I think all of us hear you in terms of the recent shooting, and there's investments we've made in the past, but it's clearly not enough in terms of mentorship, in terms of investment and partnership with first responders and police, in terms of investment in neighborhoods. There's a tremendous amount across the board we have to do, but we do hear you and look forward to, trying to move forward to getting there. But that's it.
Cool. Thank you. All right, there will be another opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting. Ms. Thomas, could you please read the consent agenda?
Consent agenda, number 2, minutes, June 2nd, 2025, regular meeting. Number 3, resolution to allocate housing operations and support, or HOPS, FY26 grant funding for affordable housing and homelessness support programs in the amount of $460,574, second reading. 4, resolution to appropriate additional funds for the Virginia Department of Transportation, or VDOT, City of Charlottesville, Virginia, project portfolio, $23,317,263, second reading. 5, resolution to amend the City of Charlottesville, Virginia CDBG and home funding awards for program year 2025 through 26, a minor amendment to the city's one-year annual action plan in the amounts of $6,835 for CDBG and $2,859.47 for home, second reading, and A and B are the 2 separate resolutions for that. 6, a resolution to amend and reallocate tax and rent relief budgets, second reading. 7 is a resolution, or 2 resolutions, LLC or entity creation authorization resolutions for West Haven Phase 1 and 6th Street Phase 2 redevelopment projects, second reading. 8 is a resolution to appropriate Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services Victims of Crime Act grant in the amount of $123,600, one of 2 readings.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further questions or comments from council? Okay, please cast your vote.
I don't know how to do that.
It should have sent you a pop-up. Maybe refresh.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay.
It's a new system here, folks.
Yes.
Yay, awesome. Okay, Mr. Sanders, is there a report from the city manager's office?
Yes, sir. First is a presentation being led by Misty Graves, our Director of Human Services, in regards to the Anchor program, and then I will share work plan update as identified.
Good evening, council. I'm here to present on behalf of the city manager and the Anchor team, which some members are behind me, joined for this presentation. We just had our first birthday. We hit the ground running on July 1st of last year, so last week we celebrated our first birthday, and that's given us an opportunity to look back on how we've grown and developed and built this year. So we have some of our Anchor team here today. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and then I'm going to play an intro video for you.
Good evening, council. My name is Norman DeReese, and I serve as the mental health navigator for the Anchor team.
Good evening, council. My name is Tammy Shaffoot, and I'm one of the police officers on the team.
Evening, councilors. My name is Jason Conray, and I'm a firefighter.
All right, we'll go ahead and play the Anchor intro video for you so you can be introduced to all of our members.
Anchor stands for Assisting with Navigation, Crisis Help, and Outreach Resources. So my name is Norman. I'm the Mental Health Navigator for the Anchor team. What that looks like on a call-by-call basis is that I go out, I assist people for suicidality, meaning are they a risk to harm themselves or are they a risk to harm others? And I help make recommendations about what services in the community may help them out.
Great. My name is Pamela Coburn, and I am the Certified Peer Recovery Specialist, and I assist and support people in mental health and substance use crisis.
Tammy Shiflett with the Charlottesville Police Department. I'm a member of the Anchor team, and I provide safety for all parties.
I am Officer Lucas with the Anchor Co-Response Team. My role is to ensure the overall safety of everyone involved in the situation.
So my name is Jason. I'm a firefighter EMT with the Charlottesville Fire Department. I'm currently assigned to the Anchor team, and my role is to assist with some of the medical evaluations of folks and try to help determine what is medically related or versus mental health related.
My name is Jackie. I'm a firefighter on the Anchor team, and I identify any medical needs while providing compassionate support to our neighbors in crisis.
Kudos to our communications department team for putting in a video, just how cool these individuals are. I'm going to go over some just brief stats that we have captured over our first year once I have the slides back up, because I don't have them memorized.
Stand by.
Some of the early outcomes that we started to measure were numbers of calls in general for service. We also divided out what kind of calls there were. So we deem one category called live calls, which means they're responding to live 911 calls, calls for crisis, or call for crisis, or they're asked by a first responder if Anchor can join them on that call as they sort of assess the situation. Then we have what's called follow-ups. Follow-ups are folks that had a contact with Anchor and need some additional time to follow up, touch base, make resources available for long-term support, since Anchor is really just a crisis response team. So we had a total of 395 encounters that was serving 250 unique individuals. The other outcome that we measure is what are the calls for? So is it the primary need a mental health issue? Is it a substance use issue? Is it a co-occurring, meaning both at the same time, or some other type of call? So as you can see, about 64% of our calls are related as a primary to mental health. Then we have 13% as substance use is the primary concern. We have 14% that are both simultaneous, and about 9 are in the other category, which may be that we assist with the police department delivering a death notification, trespass calls, and other general assistance. I'm going to ask Norman to share, because we always talk about data and numbers, and wanting to really highlight that these are unique individuals, real human beings that are behind these numbers. So I just wanted to have Norman share a little bit about just an example of what Anchor does out in the field.
Thank you. So one story that I would like to share from the Anchor team is that we assisted a family that one of the individuals was experiencing a mental health crisis. The individual ended up needing to be placed under an emergency custody order that the spouse had gotten. And during that process, it was a very scary process for both the individual who was experiencing that crisis as well as the spouse herself having to deal with it. But through Anchor's response, we were able to help get that individual to the hospital where he was evaluated and unfortunately had to be sent for further hospitalization. But through that process, we kept in contact with the spouse, providing her information that helped to ease a lot of her anxieties. And as a result of that, the individual that had to be hospitalized ended up coming out of that hospitalization, getting better support for his mental health than what he had before Anchor had intervened. So in short, with Anchor helping, we can help people get better help than what they might necessarily get otherwise by connecting them to resources that they might not know are available to them. Yes.
Thank you for sharing that story. Would the alternative been, a year and a half ago before Anchor existed, just police intervention and not the rest of the support team?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So some highlights and accomplishments. We could go real slide heavy on this. We just picked a few of the highlights. So this first year, we were able to sort of get folks onboarded and started to write up our standard operating procedures, which are iterative as this team continues to learn and grow and get additional training. We were able to secure software specifically for co-response. It's called Gelada, and our community is really excited about being able to do that. It'll help us to create a live real-time dashboard on the Anchor website so any community member can access data on what they're doing and what they're able to achieve. So for example, it's modeled after what Durham, North Carolina uses, and they have a dashboard that's community member facing so that people can see how many calls they've gone on and what the types are and so forth. Training was a big priority for this group, so several of the members of the team were able to go to the International Co-Responder Conference in Atlanta, Georgia, to network with other co-response teams and learn from those experts. We also traveled as a group to Durham, North Carolina to visit their HEART team, which is a 50-member team. We're a 6-member team. But it gave us some really great goals and some guidance, and they were very generous with the resources. Our staff on the Anchor team are crisis intervention trained, CIT trained. We have access through that, through the police department. Anecdotally, and we will continue to measure this in future iterations, but diversions are more frequent. We're able to interact with community members in crisis and able to divert them so that they are not needing to go to the hospital or jail for whatever the crisis they're in. And then we've been relieving more officers on shift, thus adding capacity. So an officer can call to ask Anchor for assistance, and then we're able to have the team go out and relieve that officer so that they can close the call and that officer can return to their regular beat. Just joking. Year 2 goals. So implementation with Gelada will take several weeks. We've already started. We're about 4 or 5 weeks into our implementation. We are working closely with the Emergency Communications Center, the ECC, to build out direct dispatch for Anchor. So this means that they will have police radios where the 911 call center will go ahead and have Anchor go out as a first responder. We're also going to support them as they embed a mental health professional in the 911 call center. And we are going to this year explore expansion options for care navigation team that would be able to do follow-ups for more long-term connection to resources and service provision. Just kidding. Anchor has a landing page on the Department of Human Services website. They have their own link there, and so you can learn more information about Anchor and understand more fully the Marcus Alert and how it impacts our community and Anchor's role. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a quick question. It seems that the work you're doing is very important, but also your team is quite small. How do you manage the 24-hour access, or do you not do 24-hour access, or how does that work?
We are not at that point yet.
Mm-hmm.
We currently operate from 8 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And as we start to look for ways in which we may want to expand, we will change hours, and that is the ultimate goal.
Okay, great, yeah. admirable goal. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think, and that was going to be my question as well. I think, clearly a need for continued investment in order to scale up the service, because this is still at a very small scale and a very small team that I'm sure is working incredibly hard, but significant more investment on the part of the city, I think, could be warranted and necessary. The only question I have, I don't even know if it's a question that has an answer, but obviously the majority of your calls are for mental health crises. Are the things that you're seeing frequently pop up as some of the systemic issues in terms of ability to access care that are leading to those moments, or is that something you're not really, collecting data on or being able to look at in terms of how you're
we don't
responding?
collect data on that currently. I know that as they are sort of de-escalating whatever the presenting crisis is, sometimes during follow-up we can ask questions like, what's been getting in the way? Do you need us to help you call your psychiatrist or reconnect with your mental health counselor? But I don't collect the data as to what may have exacerbated that crisis at the time.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I interrupt? You had 395 calls for 250 unique individuals. So for those repeat callers, is there a trend there? Or are they calling for different things? Or is that also data that we don't know
is
yet?
inclusive of the follow-up visits as
Okay.
well. So those individuals may have one touch after the interaction or two or three, so that we can kind of get them to a place to get connected with their either regular service provider or other services that they may need.
Okay, I got it. Not 395 initial encounters.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. That helps clarify. Did you have anything else?
No, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I lose the crowd when I have the microphone. So I know. So I know that I could have had Chief Koches and Mr. Maddox speak in regards to items that came up previously, but I'm going to deal with those myself. Just wanted to point out that we are absolutely working the Orangedale neighborhood situation for 4th of July and have already made progress in working that situation, that case. I think it's important for us to demonstrate that we are taking that as a priority. That is an unfortunate situation that had caused injury to innocent bystanders, and that is always a cause for concern. We have a lot to look at. There's a lot more that we'll have to talk about and bring some of those items back to council as well. In addition, I will say that we are not going to discuss matters of negotiation, even including disciplinary action for those that we hire to work for us and do different things, but do believe that this organization is working hard to make sure that we address the individuals that made mistakes in representing the city in its recent legal case, and we will make sure that we bring forward what is a reasonable resolution as quickly as we possibly can. But that's not going to be something that we would discuss publicly until we're resolving that situation, I think.
And for the public who may not be familiar, you're referring to the rezoning lawsuit.
For the rezoning lawsuit.
Completely separate from anything about
That's correct.
Orangedale.
Yes, that's true. Thank you for pointing that out. I think we need to just be reminded that this is an organization that can get work done. It has been getting work done, and we continue to get that work done. And we will continue to stay focused on that. And I'll move right on into what I'm doing here right now, talking to you about a work plan. This is 12 months of activity meant to highlight actions by myself and members of this team across the entire city organization that are working hard to deliver on your priorities, your outcome areas as identified in your strategic framework. There's always a lot more work that could be done. We will continue to do that. And I'm going to focus on the things that you see highlighted throughout this document. And for members of the public that have not seen this before, Upon taking the role of city manager, I decided that it was important for me to be able to come before council and the public every quarter and report on our progress at getting the work done for the city. My goal is to always present a work plan at the start of each fiscal year and then to give quarterly updates. So you'll be getting an updated FY26 work plan in the next couple weeks, and then I will come back before you every quarter with updates. So again, we're going to focus on the highlighted things. Anything in yellow is something that we're still working on. Anything in green is closer to reality and we feel good about it. Anything that is not highlighted is done or is identified as something that we will continue to work on in the new fiscal year. The line item on this page is highlighted as operationalized JEDI. I think it's important for us to continue to appreciate that while we are concerned about the actions of the federal government, we are not stopping the work that we need to do that has been identified and prioritized by this council. Until you tell me otherwise, that is what we will continue to do. But language is what is being used right now as a target. It is also being used to try to separate localities from their values. And until, again, you give me direction for us to do something different, while we may change the words, we will not change the work. And I think that is what's most important for us to be able to point out to you. You have here on this page under housing, implement a homeless intervention strategy. We continue to work on that. One of the biggest items that has consumed a great bit of time is the concept of a low barrier shelter. Unfortunately, I do not have an update for you that tells you that we'll have a low barrier shelter anytime soon, but we are continuing to work with parties who are interested in helping us deliver that. And one day soon, I hope, I'll be able to come back to you and tell you how it's looking, when we think we may have something that we can go live with. But in the meantime, I am looking at alternatives because I believe in a plan B, C, and D, just because that's who I am. So we'll come back to you and give you more updates on that, as well as last month, you approved community investment, community intervention items that are brought forward that are aimed at addressing aspects of this issue of homelessness. And our goal will be to begin working on the implementation. That's bringing on a street outreach team so that we can have direct engagement with individuals who find themselves unhoused, and we can learn directly from them on ways that we can address more of their concerns and issues and see if we can't fill in the gaps by understanding firsthand what they face. Strategic investment opportunities, we've been working to define the city housing portfolio. Our partner CRHA came before you recently to present an update on that. I think there is real opportunity in that space for us to add additional housing units, so we're going to continue to work with CRHA, and we plan for you to see that as a part of an additional conversation in the joint session that has been scheduled for next month with the CRHA board. And then we are going to also, of course, continue to work to refine the efforts within our affordable housing plan and see about making sure that we can deliver more units, preserve more units, and then, of course, figure out how best to get the return on the investment that you all have chosen to make each year. Next page, more highlighted things, the biggest being staff capacity. You know that we have our city attorney in place, we have our HR director in place, we have transit procurement specialists and others in regards to transit planning and long-range planning in place. And I have extended an offer to an emergency management coordinator and feel very good about being able to announce very shortly that we have that critical position filled as well. There will be additional work because, you know, as you gain, you lose. I'll be looking to fill a deputy city manager position as Eden Ratliff returned to Pennsylvania to serve as a township administrator. So he is now back home, and we wish him well, and I look forward to filling that seat. And then we will look to see is there anything else that we need to shore up or additional opportunities to add staff. As it relates to staff, it is important for me to not lose sight of the idea that morale has been low for this organization. It continues to climb. It's not where I want it to be, having just recently reviewed the results of the employee survey. And while I'm proud to say that they acknowledge, the larger group of employees acknowledge that things were better, there's still a lot of room for improvement. So for that, I take that as my mission, that's my charge to do what I can to make things better. So we have started a few things, including I shared with you previously, bringing back our service recognition activities so that we acknowledge those individuals as they achieve their milestone anniversaries, thanking them for their contributions. We've initiated some all-employee gatherings. Last month, we observed Public Service Recognition Week, with an afternoon moment at the pavilion called Thrive Before 5. Thrive being the new performance recognition program that we also have launched to give our staff the opportunity to recognize their peers for exceptional performance. And then we will provide them an opportunity to be celebrated and thanked for what they do for this organization and this community. We're working on benefits. As you know, collective bargaining has been a big lift. This budget that started on July 1st recognizes our 4th bargaining unit, our 4th contract. Our laborers and trades, so public works, utilities, and parks and rec staff primarily, are now in an organized bargaining unit. So we were able to go live there, and I have also concluded the meet and confer process, which is for those individual staff just outside of contracts who have a chance to negotiate with the city manager. They have been able to receive some attention to their desires as well. So we were able to conclude that process recently, and we now will move to the next bargaining unit as well as the opening of prior contracts, because once you start, you don't really end. And we're doing some work to analyze some of the hard-to-fill positions. We have found that there are some repeat inability for us to fill certain positions, so we're now going to ask our HR team to look at those and try to determine if there are some market conditions that we need to be responsive to help us fill those jobs so that we can make sure that the work is getting done. These are primarily specialty jobs that require certain skill sets, so we're looking to try to get those filled because they do lead to getting more work done. Capital improvement program, you have shared a desire for more information in regards to our process and where our status is. Deputy Freezes has received that charge and that mission and that request, and I'll say demand, to be perfectly honest, that we've got to do better at making sure that that information gets shared with you and the public. So we're going to prioritize that in our new fiscal year, which is why it's highlighted in yellow and labeled in progress and ongoing. And then also, as I mentioned, we've gotten results from the employee survey. We also have gotten results from a community survey. You, council, will receive that report directly from our consultant at your retreat in August. And the goal is for you, as I am interested in hearing what the employee opinions are of the organization, this is an opportunity for you to hear directly from the community at large in regards to the longitudinal study, which is something that we have produced over the years. It gives us a chance to just measure satisfaction, sentiment, tenor of what the public positions are. So it'll be important for you to get that information and then for us to operationalize that to the best of our ability. So we'll get that presented to you as well. All right, we were able to negotiate some critical operating agreements. Not that I want to rehash some of those, but the Water Street parking garage lease was important for us to get an opportunity for council to have an out. So that is now secured in the new agreement with that ability made available to you. A relationship with the SPCA, giving them additional resources to bring us to a more fair process for compensation. We were able to get that done, but just recently we were also able to get a core operations agreement with the Albemarle County Sheriff that provides our sheriff the opportunity for him to discharge his entire set of duties by taking responsibility for one of the courthouses, and then the county sheriff will take the other. So those agreements are now done, and we will be looking to implement those next year at the start of next fiscal year. Under gun violence, prioritizing gun violence, we have additional staff internal that's focused on this effort. We've identified a series of things you see there that are done, things that we'll continue to work on: Youth Lead, Gun Buyback Program, the anchor team that you just heard about. There are additional items that the chief has shared with me that he would like to see us do, and we're going to continue to work on that. And we just recently initiated a project with Alexandre to also work with young kids to help them steer away from violence as a result of any issues that they find. The goal, of course, is just to do everything that we possibly can to interrupt this situation, and I do believe we heard some things tonight that we can actually follow up on and look into further. Our fire department has implemented single role EMS. We consider this an equity initiative. It's an opportunity for an individual that may not necessarily want to run into a burning building anymore, but they can do some of the medical and health related response things that need to be done. They can now be just that instead of the dual focus that we have required in the past. We have launched single role EMS, and we have gotten a good response, and we are working to staff out that team as well. And then, as you know, we've been talking about Flock all year, and we will be talking about it until October, and we'll see what you say. when the results are in and the decision is what it will be, and we will move on from there, I will say. Downtown mall investments, so improvements in this area. We've talked to you as well last month in the community interventions items that I identified for you, a series of things that, bless you, that we will continue to work on. Dedicating a mall ambassador. That is Brenda Kelly, who you all know for the work that we do. That's kind of what I call her, a mall ambassador. But the goal is to be able to have a resource available to our business community on the mall to be able to speak to someone directly and get hopefully the kinds of attention that they're looking for, as well as an increased maintenance plan and a series of improvements along the mall as our asset that turns 50 years old next year. We'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the downtown mall along with the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. So our goal would be to quickly identify a set of projects. We are working on that, that we can have completed by the time that we are at this time in the calendar next year when there may be more people in town, and we expect more people in town. Working on public art program, you'll get a presentation in November. Mr. Freeze is working on that as well to make sure that we can bring that forward, and our goal would be to implement a set of policies in regards to how we receive art, place art, and then, of course, decommission and remove art, just because those are just basic management responsibilities. You have an item later today, or you had an item on the consent agenda for VDOT portfolio, and that was really about a part of the reboot effort that was making sure that the funding is available to address project changes that we have brought to you in a series of updates over the past year and a half, I would say. So we are looking good in the fact that we are making improvements, and the goal would be to get more projects done. I'm looking forward to more ribbon-cutting events. And then expanding our bus shelter amenities. I'm happy to say that we are finally getting the Midway Manor bus shelter done. It is under construction as we speak, and I look forward to a date for coffee with Mary Carey on this bus shelter when it is finally done. I promised her that, and I plan to deliver. So that is really the update at this time. Again, you'll get a new report from me that is identifying the FY26 work plan. It will be some of these things and a number of additional things. And the goal for me in producing this particular document is, while everything on this document is not about me, it's about the team, it gives me the opportunity to come before you and the public and give updates on progress that we're making across the organization in these 9 categories that you've identified as your strategic outcome areas. So I'll stop there and give you a chance to ask any questions.
I think I agree with what you just said. It kind of lets people know what we're up to, because a lot of the work that the city does, I mean, some of it is easily visible, like infrastructure projects and, you know, bus frequency, things that are felt and seen and visible. But a lot of this is internal organization management and systems development and getting all of that kind of aligned in a way that is harder for the public to see. So getting a presentation like this is not only helpful for us, but also for anyone out there watching and everyone here watching to know like what our scope is, what we're working on, how many plates we're balancing, irons we have in the fire, whatever metaphor you would like.
Balls juggling.
Yes,
say that a lot.
all of that, because there is a lot going on. And to tie it back into kind of the struggles that are looking ahead with the federal government is when we have to use our local resources to fill the gaps that they've left us. Not only is it that initial cost, but it's the opportunity cost of what that money could have gone to otherwise.
That's right.
And so kind of managing that expectation for people, it's going to be frustrating and difficult to...
It has been, yeah.
Yeah, to get more of those visible things done. But having a good system in place to respond to that is going to be helpful as things get more challenging.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, and the key is really about getting the details from the federal government so then we can anticipate what the local impacts will be.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. City Manager. Okay, so we're now up to the action items portion of the agenda. The item number 9 is a public hearing and ordinance for partial vacation of stormwater easements at 501 Cherry Avenue. Ms. Lauren Hildebrand will introduce the item.
Thank you. Good evening, Vice Mayor and councilors. I'm Lauren Hildebrand, the city's Director of Utilities. In November 1984, the city acquired public utility easements for the construction and conveyance of stormwater utilities across the property located at 501 Cherry Avenue. The city's Department of Utilities received a request to vacate these easements to allow for development of the property. The attached ordinance proposes to vacate a portion of the existing 12-foot storm sewer and a 4-foot construction easements. The current owner, 501 Cherry LLC, requests to have these easements vacated so they can move forward with construction of their approved final site plan for the property. Therefore, city staff recommends the approval of the attached ordinance, and we request City Council consider waiving the second reading for this vacation.
Okay.
And I'm here if you have any questions regarding this.
So the actual pipes that are there will remain there?
Actually, when they redo their site,
They're going to rework all of that?
Yes, they rework it, that's
Okay.
correct. And so this is just a partial vacation of the actual piping that's in conflict with
Okay.
their development.
And you and your staff are comfortable with what they're doing in terms of utilities and confident?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yes, it's all factored into
Got it.
the final site work.
If and when they do, move these, is that something that they do and then you inspect, or is it something that we do and they pay you for?
They do
Did that
it-
make question? Did that make sense?
No, I get that question. They do the work for stormwater, utility piping, and then we inspect it.
Okay.
And we
great.
also televise it and make sure everything, we can see from within too, to make sure
Cool.
it's put in accordance with our specifications.
Any clarifying questions? No? Okay. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Okay, with no speakers, the public hearing is now closed. Council, is there any discussion?
I would move the resolution as presented in our agenda packet to vacate portions of stormwater easement at 501 Cherry Avenue.
Second,
And waiving the second reading.
double second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. I think that is probably the most quick, that,
Let's do another one.
yeah,
I have the next two.
Next two.
the most
Try to put these
promptly done public hearing we've ever had.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 10, public hearing and ordinance for partial vacation of natural gas easement, Kentridge Lot 60. Lauren Hildebrand will introduce the item.
Yeah, so in December 2007, the city acquired a natural gas easement for lots 59 and 60 in the Kenridge subdivision, which is located in Albemarle County. The city's Department of Utilities received a request to vacate a portion of this easement for future construction on the property, and the attached ordinance proposes to vacate a portion of the existing natural gas easement in order to allow Lot 60 to be developed. The easement extends further into Lot 60 than's needed and encroaches on the footprint of the proposed residence. There is currently no natural gas facilities in this portion of the easement to be vacated, and the current owner, Craig Enterprises Incorporated, is making this request. Therefore, staff recommends approving the attached ordinance, and we request City Council consider waiving the second reading for this vacation.
Excellent. Are there any clarifying questions?
Yes, you said Kenridge, which is off Old Ivy, right?
I actually don't. It's in Albemarle County.
Yeah. And and Craig Builders owns it?
Craig Enterprise, yes,
Craig
they do.
Enterprises, okay.
And we don't need this portion of the easement.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Okay, with no speakers, the public hearing is now closed. Council, is there any discussion?
Do you know what the project is going to be?
It's just a home that they're building,
Okay.
yeah, on
Okay,
Lot
so
60.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
I would move the ordinance as presented in the packet to vacate a portion of easement at Kendridge Lot 60 and to do so waiving the second reading.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
See if I can find out how to get back to that. No. Let's try that. Yes, there we go.
Fantastic. Okay. Passed 4-0. Item number 11, public hearing on ordinance for vacation of stormwater easement, 100 Stadium Road. Ms. Helderbaum, will you introduce the item?
Absolutely. In August 1937, the city acquired a public utility easement for the construction and conveyance of stormwater utilities on the property located in the city at 100 Stadium Road. The city's Department of Utilities has received a request to vacate this easement to allow for development of the property. The attached ordinance proposes to vacate the existing public utility easement. There are no stormwater structures remaining within the easement which are in conflict with the proposed building footprint. And the current owner, Woodrow Apartments LLC, requests to have this easement vacated to allow them to move forward with their approved final site plan for the property. Therefore, city staff recommends approval of the attached ordinance, and we request city council consider waiving the second reading for this request.
Thank you. Are there any clarifying questions?
Yes, sorry, one quick one.
Go ahead.
Because there's no stormwater infrastructure there, the reason why we have to do a waiver for the easement is that if the easement exists, then we could say at some point down the road, we're gonna dig this up and put something there, and then their whole building's in the way?
So we have to vacate the easement so they can put their building on top of where that easement is. And so we have because of the design of their new site plan, they have new stormwater infrastructure going in that will handle all of it and be in different locations. And it's in the existing easement that was put in what we obtained in 1937 isn't relevant anymore.
Okay, thanks.
And this is a process we have to go through with a property interest.
Okay, thank you. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Okay, with no speakers, the public hearing is now closed. Council, is there any discussion?
Move the ordinance as presented in the packet to vacate the storm easement located at 100 Stadium Road and to do so by waiving the second reading.
I'll second it.
Please cast your votes. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Lauren. Item number 12, Mr. Jensick, public hearing and ordinance regarding an easement to Dominion Energy for undergrounding of electrical equipment at Penn Park and Quarry Road.
Good evening, council members, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Thomas, and everybody here. Chris Gensick, I'm the Parks and Trails Planner for the city. We've done a number of these with Dominion. They want to underground utilities, which is good pretty much all around. Is this two items tonight, or are they all in the same one?
It's listed as one.
It is one, okay. So at Quarry Park, the existing overhead line goes through the woods behind the baseball stadium, and they like to get those underground because trees fall and it knocks out the power. It's also over the top of our backstop for the kickball baseball field down there. So in order to approve easements on city-owned property, council has to adopt new ones, and I think the old ones did not say underground. So this one's basically going to underground it right where it sits now, other than they're going to go around the backstop for the baseball field.
So it is, both items are
Okay.
under the,
I think there's an A
Sure,
and B.
okay. Do you want to do one at
There's
a
an A
time or
and
just the
B.
whole thing?
give me 1 second, please.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, can I just do it like it's in the,
Let's see.
Probably
I
should be
didn't
two.
see whether there were two resolutions, but.
There's one-
There's Penn Park.
One ordinance for the easement, but then there's a right-of-way agreement. I don't know if that requires a vote.
okay.
Right, it should just be the ordinance that you're voting on, the agreement.
Which is at Penn Park or Quarry Road?
There's two. So at Penn Park, they're actually laying a new line because the line currently comes in from Holmes Avenue and goes over the creek, and it's in a really awful place for them to maintain. So they're running a new line completely in, and in order to provide service down to the golf clubhouse particularly, they need to come through part of Penn Park. We've run it by golf and park staff, and everybody is approving of it, so.
Yeah, I'm sure it's all fine. I'm just struggling with what's in the actual packet.
We should probably do it as two items and get a second resolution generated for the record, because they're not in the same location.
Right. And the right-of-way agreement is pretty standard for how we work with Dominion, so it's just how you want to do your resolutions that's.
So why don't we
up
do
to
one
you.
resolution for the Penn Park and one resolution for Quarry Park?
Right, and then we can separate those tomorrow as a part of the record.
So I'll make a motion to approve the attached ordinance granting
Okay, let me-
easements
Public hearing
at
first.
Penn, and then we just stop there. Is that how it works?
I need to do a
Public
public hearing, I
Oh, yeah,
think,
but
for each.
is that, will you
Yes.
just say that?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I'm
okay?
just not sure I'm seeing what you're seeing as the second item.
Well, it's undergrounding equipment in one location, and then you said it's a right-of-way agreement in a second location. Is that right?
Correct.
Correct. Quarry has an existing easement and Penn does not. So if that helps you determine how you move forward in terms of the legal.
City Manager
And-
Sanders, it appears that this has been presented as a single ordinance. And
Yes.
the third whereas states that it is for a relocate an overhead power service and maintain replacement underground power service located, city, blah, for property located at Penn Park, parcel number, insert the number there, and Quarry Park. So that is why it's been presented as one solid ordinance, even though it is differentiated in that whereas clause of two specific parcel locations.
If that's acceptable to the attorney's office, then we can vote on what we have here. It just seems odd.
It does.
It is odd, and I'll be taking it up with some of the staff who looked at it, but it is technically acceptable. It'll just be two actions taken in the same ordinance at two different locations. It's not ideal, but it's not impermissible.
So we're taking one action that covers two separate locations?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same parties and interest in both cases. I don't see it being a massive issue.
Okay.
There you go.
Well then, let me open the public, well, any other clarifying questions? Okay. I'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Okay. With no speakers, the public hearing is now closed. Council, is there any discussion?
I would move the ordinance as presented in the packet for an easement for undergrounding Dominion electric power equipment. And you are not requesting waiving a second reading, or were you?
That's up to you. I don't think they're doing this work immediately.
Okay. Second.
So the motion that you've made is to waive the second reading, includes waiving the second reading. I'm fine with that.
It doesn't matter. I didn't include it, but it doesn't matter. I was just asking if he had, like earlier, they requested waiving it. And
So it would come back on the consent agenda?
Right.
That's the motion I made. I'm happy for a friendly amendment if others.
Okay.
But that's the motion I made.
I know we have one friendly amender over here. Would you like to?
You said it's not
Okay.
imminent, so.
So you'll second it as it is and
Yeah,
we'll go on the
that's fine.
consent agenda. Okay, please cast your votes.
So that was
Thanks,
a
Chris.
second.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
Does the right-of-way agreement require a vote?
He said it was all part and parcel of the same thing. It was
One
covered.
resolution.
All right.
Your resolution would allow staff to sign the right-of-way agreement, as I understand it.
one resolution to govern them all. Okay, so now we're at item 12. This is the public hearing and resolution for Dogwood Vietnam Memorial Foundation lease at McIntyre Park. I have Chris Jensick listed, but it looks like it's you, Mr. Anthony.
That's correct.
Okay, can you take it away, please?
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager, Rian Anthony, Parks and Recreation Director. As I noted in the briefing, that this item was brought to City Council on May 5th. And at the time, however, there was no public hearing listed. And this is why staff is here before you again today, is to request a public hearing, and then after the public hearing, staff recommend that City Council approve the attached resolution.
Okay, so is this, help me remember, this is to sort of fix something that wasn't teed up exactly right last time?
Okay. We've already approved the lease to go forward, but a public hearing was required, so we're just going backwards to clean up that action.
Any clarifying questions?
So the MOU existed for decades, and then did the Memorial Foundation seek this lease, or did we seek
Yes,
this lease?
they did.
They did, okay. And did we find anything substantively at issue with the MOU?
No, well, go ahead.
Yeah, no, there was, again, at the night on the dais, there was discussions about the lease, but there was not anything major that council did not like or dislike about the lease. It is a 40-year
The MOU,
lease.
was there anything wrong with the MOU?
The
previous
MOU
MOU?
Yeah, the MOU was not detailed enough, and we wanted something much more detailed, and it just made sense since this foundation would like to have donations and also expand the footprint.
Did we ever up here see the MOU?
Yeah.
It was in the
It was an
it was in the
action item.
packet?
Yeah, that's what we just missed the public hearing component that should have accompanied that. Yep. Yep.
Okay, any other clarifying questions? All right, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Okay, with no speakers, the public hearing is now closed. Council, is there any discussion?
If not, I would move the resolution approving a lease agreement between the Dogwood Vietnam Memorial Foundation and the City of Charlottesville for use of a portion of city property at McIntyre Park.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this doesn't go to the consent agenda. We were able to vote on it in a single vote. Correct. Okay, sorry, I should have asked that before.
Council members, I can provide you a little bit more context. The question came to my office after the resolution was passed. Was this an appropriate way to do this? And looking at any time that the city conveys an interest in public property,
Yeah.
it has to happen on following a public hearing. Since the
Right.
public hearing didn't happen, that's why we circled back.
Got it, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Vandiver. Item 14, offer and compromise for taxes due, 1603 6th Street Southeast.
Yes, good evening, council, members of the public. My name is Jason Vandiver, the treasurer for the city of Charlottesville. I say I have the last official item on the agenda tonight, which is an offer and compromise for taxes due at 1603 6th Street Southeast. Before I jump into the details of what an offer and compromise is and why we're bringing this to you, I just wanted to point out two things. One, obviously, there is a sensitive nature to this application for an offer and compromise, and we did work with the city attorney's office to get a confidentiality waiver signed with the applicant who submitted this. So she's aware that, by the nature of giving you the information that you need to make a decision, that we may need to talk about financial information and that sort of thing. So we're all in the clear to do that tonight. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is that over the past 6 months, We've been working closely with the Legal Aid Justice Center, and their representatives are here tonight. Michaela Lieberman is an attorney who works with them, and also wanted to point out that Jacob Fulton, who is a law student at the university, played an integral role in getting this to this point as well. So with that, I will jump right in and explain what an offer in compromise is and why it needs your consent to move forward. So an offer in compromise is a tool that's authorized in the Code of Virginia to settle taxes that are due to a locality. So it could be any tax, but in this case, it's real estate taxes that accrued on this property from 2021 to 2024 when the prior owner owned the property. So some of the details that make this situation particularly unique. This property was purchased, I think, in 1971. It was owned by a couple, and the wife died last year. In the final years of her life, she did qualify for 100% real estate tax relief, but due to some pretty extraordinary medical circumstances, for several years there, towards the end of her life, she was not able to complete an application. If she had completed an application, she would have qualified for real estate tax relief. There wouldn't have been an amount due. So this tax balance of about $9,500 is a balance that really should not have been owed to the city in any case. But unfortunately, just that the application wasn't filed, and that kind of led us down the road to where we are today. So it's definitely unfortunate, but not insurmountable. So we were approached when the new owner of the property, Ms. Chambers, started receiving some of the notices from our office regarding the past due balance. The property at that point had started down the road towards judicial sale, which is a legal proceeding where sometimes the only opportunity left to collect the tax balance due is to sell a property at auction, which we really don't want to do and do very rarely, but this property was at that point where we were considering that action. At that point, the current owner who was living in the property, Ms. Chambers, reached out to Legal Aid Justice, and they contacted us to kind of figure out, what was going on and how we might be able to resolve the situation. So they took some steps necessary to get the will probated, and Ms. Chambers was the sole heir of the property. She was the sister of the decedent. So she inherited the property and was able to do all the steps necessary with the assistance of legal aid to get the property transferred into her name and do that in time to apply for real estate tax relief in 2025. So Ms. Chambers subsequently qualified for 100% real estate relief in 2025, and it's our belief that she will continue to qualify for that program going forward. The problem is that there is a gap, that when she inherited the property, she also inherited a tax bill of about $9,500 that was incurred before she owned the property. So they proposed that we consider an offer in compromise, which is not something that we've ever done before. There are other localities around the state that have done that, and we did some research, and Legal Aid did some research as well to see what sort of situations might warrant accepting an offer in compromise. And there's sort of two things that we consider. One is that if the collection of a tax debt is seriously in doubt, which in this case we believe that it is, it's my belief that if we pursued collection, that it would end up in judicial sale again, where the only recourse would be for the city to sell the property, which we don't want to do. We want to keep it in this family that the property has been in for the last 50 years. So the other thing is that the state code talks about accepting an offer in compromise when it's in the best interest of the community and the locality to do so. And so that's the one that we would, our office, really felt like it applied in the situation, that these taxes should not have been owed. Unfortunately, there's no mechanism to go back in time and retroactively apply relief to a property. You just can't do that. And so this is a way for us to absolve those taxes that were sort of inherited with the property and in our belief are unable to be paid at this point and keep the property in the family. So I've accepted the offer as presented to remove those taxes, but it requires the consent of the governing body to do so. And so that's why we're here tonight presenting the item for your consideration. So happy to answer any questions. If you have any questions, Michaela is here as well. If you have questions about their involvement or their thoughts on the matter. So,
any questions?
I just want to make a quick comment, which this feels like one of those cases where instead of someone falling through the gap, the stopgap worked. And they were able to get in touch with the right people and have the right systems in place to make what seems like a very reasonable solution possible. So thank you all for putting in those efforts.
Yeah, I agree. Lloyd, any questions?
No questions at all.
Okay, so,
Public hearing?
no, not a public hearing. Is there a motion?
I would move a resolution to offer compromise for taxes due at 1603 6th Street Southeast.
Second.
Okay, please cast your votes. There we go. Yeah, to second what was just said, thank you both for your diligence in trying to get this resolved and come up with something that's fair and equitable.
Great, thank you all.
Appreciate it. Yep. Okay, we're now at the final speaking opportunity for members of the public. Individuals may raise their hand to be recognized to speak, and each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Take care.
Nope.
Okay. With no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Please cast your votes.
Is that something we can vote on?
You can just listen.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
I almost closed that window.
The next regular city council meeting is Monday, July 21st, 2025.
Yep.
Meeting adjourned.
Be there or
Do
be
you still follow Lynchburg at all?